All right, hello, Cesaria. Welcome to the weekly talk show. This is DJ Spiderbite of Siege Perilous and Sonoma, actually. And today is May 7th, 2006. This is UORadio TalkShow number 36. This is your opportunity to share your questions, your comments, and opinions about the happenings in Ultima Online, in the community and in the game. And those words have never meant so much as they do today, because this really is your opportunity, because now everyone is welcome to join us in the talk show each week. As long as this format works out, we'll do it the same way every week. We are now doing a town hall style talk show. So if you have a mic, TeamSpeak, you are more than welcome to join us every Sunday afternoon at this time. So, with that said, that announcement out of the way, and introducing everybody to our little guinea pig talk show today, let me go on further and say that today's a special talk show as well, because sometime during this talk show, probably towards the end of it maybe, we'll see, Draconi has offered to give us a special hint on the Inu quest that's going on the test shard and on the servers right now. So, if you don't want to miss out on that special hint and get that advantage, be the first one there to take advantage of it, tune in and stay tuned in for today's show. We've got a pretty good show today. As always, interesting topics, hot topics, and what I'd like to do before I get into our very first subject is introduce my co-host here, Viceroy, and in case he has a few words to say.
Yeah, it's great to be here this afternoon and everything on May 7th. And looking forward to the talk show.
Excellent. Yeah, I am too. I've been looking forward to this ever since you brought up the idea to me. So hopefully it will go off without a hitch. Let's jump right into the first topic. One of the biggest things right now that's going on is the new grace period of 30 days versus 90 days for housing decay on inactive accounts. Now, before we get into it too far, let me define inactive account. That means that your account is not being paid for and that your subscription has expired. The character exists, the house still stands for 90 days as it was before, but now it's going to be 30. Where does everybody on my panel today, or in the town hall audience, I'm going to call them, the audience, believe that, what is this accomplishing? For one, myself, I am very much for it, because I do know people who have flat out told me, I pay every 60 days just to keep my house standing for, because it's a public establishment or whatever reason. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and start off with Viceroy, because I believe your light went on first, so let me go ahead and turn it over to you.
All right. Well, to respond to the question and what you just asked and everything, my thoughts are on that is this. I think it's a great thing. And the reason I think it's a great thing is because of the simple fact that, we have, for so many years, have, asked for more housing space, even though, and the reason there's a high demand for more housing space, and the reason that demand is usually there, is because nobody can place a house where these houses are, standing, where people just simply, pay once, 4 times a year to keep their house standing. Because that's really what it comes down to, because you have 4 quarters in a year, so they're paying essentially 4 months out of the year and getting to keep a house, wherever they may, want it or whatever. But, and another thing is, it wouldn't surprise me, if they let their house go inactive or whatever, they could very well run vendors out of it, So, I mean, you could set an unlimited vendor and keep making money even when you even got an active account from your vendor house, if you have one. like one, for example, at the Luna Mall, or Luna area. If you was to have one of those and you just simply refreshed it, or simply activate your account 4 months out of the year, well then, that is also depriving someone else of, an opportunity to have a house in that spot, or someone who is actively playing. So by continuing with this policy of, where people are only paying 4 months out of the year, you're depriving people of, an opportunity to place a house, and you're also allowing people who pay 4 times out of the year an opportunity to still make money, even though their account is inactive. So, I mean, that's how I look at it. I think it's a great move for Electronic Arts. It'll obviously pull in more revenues if they want to keep their houses. If not, I'm sure they'll let their houses go, and the houses will start falling, and they'll open up new opportunities for people to place houses.
Yeah, I agree. That was actually a good point you made about the vendors. I never even thought about that use of the system. Set up a vendor house, rent out vendors, they just pay you rent or whatever, and you're making gold hand over fist, paying 4 times a year instead of just once a month, instead of once a month, 12 times a year. Sam, man, go ahead and let us know what shard you play, and let us know your thoughts on that.
Me there?
Go ahead.
There we go. I'm kicked in now. Yeah, you got the one and only DJ Sandman here, and definitely, I think this is probably one of the best moves they've made in a long time. And we've been complaining about scripters. Well, this is another area that's really nailed Ultima Online. It's people that are scripting houses, I guess you'd call it. I'm not sure what you'd actually call it, but setting on houses like that and only opening up your account every 3 or 4 months to reset it. That's not right. This game is for role playing. It's for getting in there and PvPing and PvP monstering and just grinding, doing all your stuff. And if you just have a house sitting there doing nothing, it's a waste in the game. And you're actually running off players that might want to get into the shard. I can remember when 9/11 came around, and my goodness, it seemed like 2 years, it seemed like, or longer even, that they actually let houses stand without anything happening. And shards just became dead, it seemed like. Nothing was going on. But doing this, I think we will actually see more activity. I think we'll see a surge in new players. And new accounts will be showing up left and right to take over these empty spots. And it'll develop more role-playing. And the community is actually going to become real active. And once we get rid of these deadbeats, let's call them deadbeats, I guess, or make them active, you're going to see some action happening. I really think it's going to be a great, great deal.
Good points, especially the one regarding the inactive players, the deadbeats, basically. I know for a fact that the one person I was talking about that I knew personally that is holding on to a house, he holds on to it, and the only reason I have contact with him is because it took me about 3 months, but I tracked him down. He holds my dream spot that I've always wanted, and the only reason he pays 4 times a year is to basically to hold on to that house spot because he knows he can get millions for it. Luckily, with this announcement, I forwarded it to him. He went, read the link, shot me back an ICQ saying, you know what? Guess what? After my account goes inactive on this date, 30 days after that, be there. The house is the spot's yours. And he's even going to leave all the stuff in it to me because I've waited for. It's been about 4 years now. So with that said, go ahead, Vice.
Well, that just kind of reminds me of a stupid kind of policy in which they used to have. And, well, I guess it's not stupid, but it's one I never quite agreed with. For example, when 9/11 happened over here in the United States and everything, we went 2 years where houses were automatically refreshing. And that wrecked the housing economy so bad and everything because, I mean, that really cheated a lot of players out of potential housing spots, and then their only solution to that, let's add a new landmass to the game. But, you know, I think it's a great thing that they really did, you know, give players the option, or players now an opportunity to place houses where they wouldn't otherwise be able to. Because I'm sure a lot of these brokers that have these houses in Luna and stuff like that, and only paying 4 times out of the year, you know, they're going to be probably letting go of some of those houses, I would imagine, or trying to sell them off real quick. That's, you know, that's my guess. And also, you're going to have a lot more open areas in the game. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be so fond of the ideal to the point where I want to see desolate areas where there's tons of open housing spots and everything. I mean, I'm not sure, because then, I mean, you know, see, here's another problem I had. Whenever I went over to play on Siege Perilous, what really turned me off more than anything else was going over to Siege Perilous and finding, you know, to the east of Britain, nothing but, you know, large towers, you know, keeps, castles, and that's all I ever saw. So I'm kind of wondering, you know, if this is just going to create another problem to where it's similar to what Siege has, where everybody's got a big house, and everybody's got one, and then, you know, there's no room for a little small house, there's no unique characteristics, you know, and, you know, I'm not sure if that's something I'm looking forward to seeing in Ultima, you know. So I'm kind of torn between the two. At the same time, I'm happy about it, but at the same time, I don't want it to look like Siege Perilous where everybody has a big house.
Yeah, you know, and that's a good point, actually. That's a really good point, because, yes, people are going to start placing keeps where they normally haven't been able to for years and have been waiting to do so just because one abandoned house has been sitting there forever. It could even be just an 8x8 that was placed there simply for the matter of blocking a keep from going in. And as soon as that drops, somebody can place a keep. So that's a good point. The other thing that Sandman had reminded me is bringing in new people. I think I agree 100% about that, for the mere fact that when these houses start dropping, it is going to open up places on shards that are large, like Chesapeake, you know, with high populations. You know, Lake Superior, I think, has got a pretty high population, and all the others. And what I've experienced, even on Sonoma, where it's a low population, because of all these old abandoned houses, people cannot place. So they want a nice house. They want a house with a good location and with enough room for their lockdown. So instead of playing where they want to play or where their friends play, they go off to another shard. Well, they get bored, their friends aren't there, and eventually they've quit the game. All because they couldn't place a good house. A good house placement, I should say. So I do think we're going to see people come in and go and be overjoyed. Now, one thing, and I'll get to you, Sandman, because I know you have another comment coming here in just a second. My only other comment I want to throw in to toss out there to our guests here today is, what about house brokering? Is this going to increase the house brokering or decrease it? If they can get rid of it, if you get a bunch of people running out there, first of all, hitting the IDOCs, and then placing on them and selling them as fast as they can, do you think this will increase or decrease it? Sandman, go ahead with your comments. Let me go ahead and hand you the mic. There you go. Go ahead.
Yeah, you know, I didn't say what shard I'm actually from when I talked earlier, but I am mainly in Siege right now. But I do play on other shards. In fact, if you watch, you will actually see Sandman running around in all the U.S. shards and actually Europe and Australia. I have fun in all shards. You know, I mainly have my houses on Siege right now. But again, these houses, I kind of disagree with Viceroy, actually. I think when these houses fall, instead of someone putting a keep there, you're going to see people jumping in there and trying to put the smaller houses. And I don't know if you guys actually remember when they brought Trammell in. If you tried to place a castle back then or a keep, someone could throw that little house in there to keep you from doing it because it would set up faster. And so that spot would be locked in for them to build to keep later, possibly. But what would happen is people would see there's open spots there, and they'd place other small houses in that area, which Viceroy was talking about. It will develop a little community there of small houses all over the place. And then you're out there trying to negotiate with your neighbors to get them to move so you can build the big place, or, join forces with them in some way. And so I think that's really going to help the community in the long run. You're going to have people working with each other or going to war with each other or whatever it's going to take. But you mentioned something about, what was it now? Hey, Spider-Bite, you just mentioned something I wanted to talk about. What was it?
The house brokering?
That's it, the house brokering. That's going to happen. But again, it's going to take people getting out there to do the work, to be at that right spot at the right time. They're not going to be able to be all over the place. And it's just a market. And the thing is, if there's more spaces available, the brokers are actually going to start slowing down, because it's too easy to get a house somewhere. And so they're not going to be able to make as much money or as much gold, whichever way they're going. And so you're going to see them starting to drop to the wayside, because there's other ways of doing what they're trying to do that will gain what they're trying to gain faster. And I think the brokers that stand and keep after what they're doing and not fall apart will be there forever. But there's some brokers that are just going to say, hey, I'm out of that part of it, and only go into certain areas and stop the brokering of houses. Go ahead.
Thanks, Sam, man. I agree. I think that my opinion is house brokering is gonna die off. Most certainly. I just see that happen. I know the IDOC business is going to go booming, at least in the first month or two that this goes into effect. That's my opinion. Go ahead, Vice.
Oh, I know Plucky Duck over there would be happy, because he's just into that kind of stuff over there on Legends and everything. So I know he'll be very happy to see all those IDOCs and everything going into effect. But the thing is, the only problem I have with these big houses, I'm not saying, I'm against big houses or whatever in the game, but it gets kind of ridiculous whenever you go into a game and there's nothing but big houses everywhere. And that's what I'm starting to see happen more and more as we, basically, get rid of these smaller houses, or these, little houses are, keeping the house, preventing somebody else from placing a bigger house, and I'm kind of worried about that in the future. But, as far as your brokering question about house brokering and stuff, I don't, as Sandman pointed out and everything, I don't think a lot of people are going to see, brokers getting into the housing market. There's just not a lot of gold to be made there, and the profits is just not worth the time being put into it. And with having to pay, 12 times a year now, rather than 4 times a year, it's going to be not worth their while and everything. And in addition to that, it's also going to reduce the demand for housing space, because, everybody's going to have a chance to now place houses who didn't otherwise have a chance before on a big production chart where it's kind of hard to find housing spots and stuff like that. So, I guess that's a good thing in a lot of ways. I don't think, the housing market's going to be much of a future. I don't think, what else? I think a lot of people are going to get back into brokering of, or the selling of resources and artifacts. I think that's where the market's at right now, if anybody who is a broker is thinking about remaining in the game.
Yep, excellent points. I didn't see when your lights went on, so Alex, why don't you go ahead? I'll give you the mic now in a second here, and before you speak, go ahead and tell us where you're from, and then go ahead and give us your comment.
Yeah, I'm Alex from the Great Lakes Shard, and something that I haven't heard yet is people on U-Haul saying that they're going to quit over this patch or that patch or whatever. And I think with housing pay shortened, I think people are going to take more time and consider that if they really want to quit, or, you know, that I just made a stupid mistake and no, I'm not going to quit.
That's actually was the very, very first thing that came to my head when I heard this announcement. I mean, instantaneously, from looking at the subject line alone, my first thought was, all right, no more crying wolf. If you're quitting, you're losing your house too. So none of this running here and doing it. And if you do quit, I want a screenshot of your auto map to see where your house is located so I can come check to see if you're just whining and complaining on U-Haul or if you're really going to quit. I'm glad you brought that up, Alex. That was exactly my sentiment as well. Not that it's the biggest impact, but it's going to make U-Haul just a little bit more sane to navigate in. Joe Pam, you were next. Let me give you the mic. And go ahead and tell us where you're from and give us your comments. Turn up your mic a little bit, hon.
Yeah, I think her mic isn't working for her. I don't know why. She probably got muted.
Okay. Better?
Much better.
There you go.
Okay. I'm Joe Pam. I'm here for UORadio. I'm the news manager. I'm on many shards, primarily Jack and Fells and Lake Superior. But I heard earlier something about the IDOCs, or IDOC, sorry. I know in Lake Superior we have a team that their guild is called the IDOC Guild. All what they do is they go out every day and on the various facets they go through and they sit there and they watch IDOCs 24 hours a day. I think someone else said it earlier, but it'll increase that team for a certain period, but then after a while, once people start, finding new houses and everything, I think the market or not the market, but the rate of the IDOCs will decrease eventually.
That's a good point. Absolutely. Yeah, the price is gonna decrease. It's the stuff that's gonna be released, I think, that is gonna be huge. And like Viceroy touched on, the artifact, especially the shard unique stuff, which is sitting in these vacant homes. There are homes that are open to the public right now on all the shards. Now, I have a character on just about every single shard back when I was in my reporter days, and I do cross-shard events and cover them, and I would see a public house, I'd walk by and I'd go, wow, look at that sash, and that sash would be something unique, and it would be worth millions if it were released, but it's from a player who had quit years ago. And I go, oh, wow, if that house ever goes IDOC, somebody is going to make a fortune because there's just tons of stuff in there. It's sad to see this stuff fall. You have these old players, these legends that used to play in the old days but quit after years for whatever reason. But we need to free up the resources. This stuff is taking up item counts in the game. We all know we're running on old software. Which means that not on our end, not on the client end, but rather on the server side. So it's got to make it easier as far as even just lag goes. Not as many houses standing or items within the houses. So with that said, let me hand the mic to Sandman, who had something to say. Go ahead, Sandman.
Yeah, everybody's bringing up some great subjects here. I just wanted to talk about the quitting part of it. I've been playing for over 8 years, and watching Stratix and watching people say they're going to quit. I mean, they're just drama queens, mainly. I would say 90% of them, they might quit for a month and they come back, and it's like, okay, I'm back, and they got the same stuff, same everything, and it just really cracks me up. But I'll tell you, the IDOCs, even from way back when the game started, IDOC setting was really a fun part of the game. because you'd end up with guild wars in front of it and activity just around a house that you knew was going to fall sometime because you know it's listed, you know it's going to fall. And just some of the stuff that happens at that point is just it's glorious. Actually, I think, and it's a great part of the game, watching night hawks happen and watching what the people do around it. I mean, I've just had a really good time with that. And actually, if you're trying to gain that house again, if it's a keep or a castle and you're trying to place a keep or castle there, you're probably not going to get it because someone's going to place a smaller type house that's going to activate faster than your keep or castle footprint, and so you're going to be stuck there watching that little house show up, and you're going, oh man, and you're not going to get it. But I think the IDOC situation is going to increase, and I think you're going to see lots of fun activity come out of it. Guilds are going to get involved, and again, like you were saying, Spider Bite, all this stuff that's hanging in there, that's rare stuff that people just want to grab a hold of and display it themselves. That's all going to become available, and all the junk's going to be thrown to the wayside, and it's going to open the servers up quite a bit. Now, was it servers, or what did you say it was? I can't remember that.
A server, well, even the engine that runs UO on the servers, we all know it's from, developed originally in 1996 and is kind of patched on since then. So it is old code, meaning that more items in the database are slow down the system and thus cause lag.
So what you're saying is, even though I have a new computer here that I just bought with my tax return, yay, that their systems are still from 1996. That's amazing.
No, don't get me wrong. The computers, I'm sure, the servers themselves, the hardware is brand new. I have no doubt that EA does that. What I'm talking about is the software that UO has been built on is older software, and that's always been an issue. They either have to rewrite it from scratch, the whole game, or keep building on what we already have. I'm not a developer. I'm not a programmer, but from what I understand, that's the way it works, and that's why when you page a GM about something, an item you're questioning its legality, for example, they can go look up the unique item number, because it has a unique item number in a database array, and figure out if that item is duped or whatever. So, Viceroy, go ahead. You had a comment.
Yeah, just think about it this way. It's kind of like comparing Windows 95 and Windows XP. It's kind of hilarious if you think about it.
Well, exactly, and you know what? There's not a lot they can do. I mean, as far as the game goes, there's not a lot, unless and every single developer that we've had over the years who's posted publicly has said as much. There's nothing you can do other than rebuild the game from scratch, and that's the reason we can't go back and undo stuff, because it would undo patches that were done on top of it and that sort of thing. So people say, take this out, or don't do this, or let's go back to this day on all the shards. It's like, well, they can't. It's a house of cards. You can't pull the bottom row out. Okay. That was the point I was going to make. But being an older system, it is database reliant, and being an older system, we have these items that are sitting here in the houses, blah blah blah, that are tying up, the server. Every time somebody runs by a house, it's got to count to everything. Not necessarily what's in it, but the lockdowns and stuff. If it's a public house, you can see everything inside the house, and it's got to refresh the screen. It's got to count the items. Go look through the database, look for each item. Again, I'm not a programmer, but from my basic programming experience, that's the way I understood it to work. We give you the mic, Sandman, and we'll get to your comment, and then I think we'll move on to the next subject. Go ahead.
Yeah. So what you're saying is it's like, hey, you cut your arm off and that's it, it's gone. And can't go back to what it was. And, us old guys here, we know what that's like. But I can understand that now. I could never understand why they couldn't bring back something, pre-whatever. But that makes a lot of sense. I'm glad you actually brought that up. And I hope you changed the subject here, because it looks like everybody's too talking about this one.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I brought this up as the first subject. It's a pretty hot topic. There was talk about military personnel kind of getting the shaft, and discussions not just on. It didn't really take place on Stratix. I think it was on UO forums where it would. The real meat and potatoes came in. We have a lot of military service people over there who brought it up and said, you know what, for me it's not an issue. My wife is at home, pays the bills, it gets paid for, or she plays, or my kids play, so the account's getting used, or I just buy game time codes and, you know, they stack anyways. And it just wasn't an issue. So, with that said, let's get on to another one here, and this one is actually a question from Vice. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to state it, and I'm going to let him go into depth about it. And what he asked, and he actually posted this in our submit a question to the talk show forum over on UORadio.com. And before I give it to him, let me really quick say, if you have a question for us, and this show is going to get big, we're going to have lots of people in this chat every week going forward. So if you do have a question you want to hear discussed on UO Radio in our new town hall format, go to UORadio.com and submit a subject is one of the forums. You can submit your own question. We'll look at it and put it on our list. So, Vice asks, is joining a guild consenting PvP? Now, I'm going to let him elaborate on that, so go ahead, Vice.
Well, sure, you know, and it's going to get a lot of people saying, what? What's this about consenting to PvP upon joining a guild? Well, you know, technically, this is my whole argument, and I'm just doing it for just the controversy of it and get everybody all riled up and everything. But, you know, technically, I think if you really look at it from a technical aspect, you are, in fact, consenting to PvP whenever you join a guild. And here's why. Because, I mean, let's say you're in Trammel, for example. Whenever you go into Trammel and everything, and you're not in a guild, you're not susceptible to any form of attack at all from any other player. You're not at risk of being attacked, you're not at risk of being PK'd, or anything, because you're not in a guild or anything. However, once you immediately join a guild and everything, you waive that right to the protection of Trammel by simply joining a guild, and now you become attackable by your own guildmates. They can PK you, they can attack you, and stuff like that. So, I mean, you know, that's one thing I say that is, you know, saying, you know, that you are, in fact, consenting to PvP whenever upon joining a guild. In addition to that, my next question is, you know, if that's the case, my next question is, why is it that we had to have consent to declare war on another guild if you're already consenting to PvP upon joining a guild? Because technically, you are consenting to PvP. Now, a lot of people say, well, you know, I don't join guilds to be attacked. I completely understand that, but you waive that right upon joining a guild and everything. So, you know, I just want to kind of get, you know, people thinking about that for a minute, because that is technically the case. And also, you know, if, you know, what I'm saying is basically there's a difference between a guild and a clan. A guild is like craftsmen. A clan is like a group of warriors. So, I mean, why is it that we have, you know, guilds in the game, yet we also declare war on the guilds and everything? What I really think is, you know, that maybe they should separate the two and make, you know, separate, you know, types of guilds. For example, you can be a clan, or you can be a guild. And, you know, a guild would simply be, you know, like a guild of merchants and everything, or crafters and stuff like that. Whereas a clan would be a guild of warriors and everything. And, you know, it would be kind of nice if, you know, guilds and clans were kind of like interdependent, you know, and that way, you know, the clans could say, you know, put in orders or put out contracts, say, hey, you know, I need 100 broadswords. And then, you know, the guilds put a bid on it and stuff like that. And, you know, highest or best bid gets the contract or whatever. And, you know, that would create a system of interdependency between guilds and clans and stuff like that. And I just wanted to throw that out there. Now, now on this little ideal mind, a guild would be attackable, whereas a clan, you can immediately declare war on them, and they are, subject to war without consent. So, whereas guilds couldn't, go to war or anything like that. That way, you have more of a safe environment, so to speak. But, I really think you are waiving those rights to protection whenever you join a guild. And I kind of want y'all's thoughts on that. Did it make you think about it a little bit, or what? Starting with Sandman, go ahead. Let me get your voice. There you go. Go ahead.
Yeah, you caught me. I was typing to Joe Pam here. But, yeah, I like that guild clan idea. It'd be really nice if they could actually change that, where a guild would be more merchant type and clans would be more the warrior type. But I'll tell you, I still really miss Chaos, what was the other one? I can't remember now. Chaos and, tell me, Viceroy.
Order,
that's it. Chaos and Order. I lost my mind here for a second. That happens a lot. But Chaos and Order, that was a lot of fun. You could put your guild right into Chaos or Order, and you wouldn't have to go to war with anybody. You'd automatically have teams of guilds, which should be called clans. I agree with that. That you could actually get out and have some fun with. Hey, so what if you get knocked out and killed all the time? But it was actually a good way of learning to PvP, and it developed a lot of role playing, and it's really the part of the game that's probably been lost, and it'd be great if they could actually get that back. And heck, don't give us a stupid shield. They need to give us something that really stands out, like the samurai used to wear those big flags up on their backs and something like that, where you really can see who you're part of. You don't have to look and squint on your screen. Of course, I'm the old guy here. I have to wear my glasses, but you should be able to see this stuff, make it look really cool, and bring that Order Chaos stuff back. And the clan idea from Viceroy, that is a great idea. And again, you do join a guild to PvP. There's no doubt about it, because it's going to happen. I joined the first guild I ever joined. I'm standing there going, thank you, and they killed me right off the bat and say, okay, this is what we do. So, good ideas there.
Well, yeah, and let's see. Go ahead, Joe Pam. Let me give you your little mic. There you go. Go ahead.
Okay. I was just trying to find whenever you. I don't remember what the box says. Whenever you get the invitation to join a guild, it says something about you are able to be you're able to be killed by your guildmates or something of that, or whatever that box is that you have to hit OK for, or whatever it says. That's about all I had to say. Something about a box. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a dialogue box that basically appears whenever you go into the game and everything, and you are joining a guild. It warns you, basically saying you are susceptible to attacks from your own guildmates and stuff like that. So exercise caution. So is that not the basically the disclaimer that basically warns you that, hey, you are in fact consenting to PvP, or that you're at risk, of being attacked, and thus therefore are consenting to PvP? That's something I really would like to argue, because that is technically the case. You are consenting whenever you join a guild. Now, whether that happens in your guild or not, that's another issue, but you are technically consenting to PvP whenever you do join a guild. And that's my argument. What I don't understand is why, if you are consenting to PvP, technically, why are you having to basically have the consent of another guild to declare war on them? Anyhow, I'll turn it back over to Spotty Bite. Go ahead.
Thanks, Vice. A couple of thoughts I had. First is your comment about the declaring war being so darn complicated. Coincidentally, I attempted to declare war on a guild last night. And it turned into a mess because, first of all, I had to leave my alliance because I didn't want to drag them into it. The guild I wanted to war with was part of an alliance, not willing to leave their alliance for obvious reasons. They've been part of it for years, and I would never expect them to. So I had to go to the alliance leader guild and give them the war declaration. Then, of course, it went through, constant messaging back and forth, and then finally getting, okay, in about a week we'll get around to accepting that war declaration. It's like, wait a minute, if I'm declaring war, why should I not be able to declare war on one guild or a clan in your scenario and just go attack them? If this were, it doesn't matter if I'm declaring war on a farm village or on an entire nation. If I'm declaring war, I'm going to go attack. In real life, there is no, or back in the days when there was this sort of thing, there is no sitting there and, okay, well, let's only make this for so many hours, and you can't attack any of our crafters, and after all these terms are met, then we'll accept your war invitation. Nah. If I'm declaring war, I'm going to attack. Period. Anyways, that was my thought on the war thing. That needs to be simplified. So, the second thing was your idea about the clans and versus guilds, or in addition to. I have had similar thoughts. I'm no guild leader. I'm a terrible guild leader. Even though I'm the GM of my own guild, it's only because there's a couple of us. So there's no leadership responsibility necessary. But when I set up the guild, the process, during it, I was looking at it going, there should be an option in here where, because two of my best friends are both, one's a broker, who everybody knows, Cybernickel, and another one just is a crafter and she does has a vendor shop. When I was thinking about this, they can't join a guild because they're basically consenting themselves to living up to the, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, notoriety of the guild that they belong to. So while I would love to invite them into my guild, for example, I can't because I don't want to affect their businesses. But if they were to set up their own guild, and while I was setting up mine, there should be options, little buttons, all the way down going, what kind of guild do you want to create? Versus different types of situations, like recreating the wheel and creating clans and guilds and townships and blah, blah, blah. No, let's all have them guilds, but let's make what kind of guild they are. Merchants Guild, Crafters Guild, whatever, Fighters Guild, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, whatever. Give them the option to choose what kind of guild, and then only certain types of guilds can fight each other or declare war on each other. Now, to go one step further, which I had also thought about, and boy, I'm glad you elaborated when you explained what your original question was, because it brings up a whole bunch of ideas I've always had. One step further, why not have merchant wars or another merchant guild? Not PvP, price wars. There's all kinds of ways you can go with that one. The same goes for the crafters. Pump out more inventory, blah blah blah. Anyway, that you could go a million miles in any direction with that whole system, and it's a great idea. Kudos on that one, Viceroy. But what I would expect would be take the current guild system and just add subtypes of guilds, so that different types of guilds could be created when they create a guild. Finally, being that you're consenting to PvP when you join a guild. That system was actually put in last year, I think. It might have been the year before. And that was due to people hanging out at Haven Bank. I know it happened on Sonoma rampantly, where people would introduce themselves and say, hey, welcome to Sonoma, welcome to UO. Join our guild, we'll get you all set up. They'd guild them. There'd be no gump or warning gump. And say, okay, now jump through the gate, we'll get you in the guild house, you'll be all set. They'd tell them as soon as they got there, steal all their stuff, and let them sit. And then the people probably quit. It's griefing. It was to prevent griefing. versus a terms of service, so to speak, for joining a guild and being killed kind of thing. I guess I covered all of it in one thing. But anyways, I do like the idea of peaceful guilds still being able to go do something, though, because I know in the years I've been in treasure hunters of Britannia, there have been times where the peaceful little treasure hunters, especially during player run events and stuff like that on Felucca, will pick up arms and go help out their friends. And I'd hate to see that the peaceful guilds, so to speak, or the crafters guilds or whoever, are excluded. But at the same time, they shouldn't have a target on their back 24/7 either, because they're not a warring guild. But they should be able to pick up arms and, in a common cause, go out and fight other people as well. So I don't think it should be exclusive to people who join a warring guild. Anyways, those were my thoughts. Joe Pam, you were next. Let me go ahead and hand you the mic.
Okay. Okay, I don't remember. Never mind.
That's all right. Sandman, let me hand you the mic here in a second. There you go. Go ahead.
Yeah, you got Sandman here, and talking about guilds like that, you're developing ideas in my head here as you were talking there, Spider-Bite, about that would be nice if you join a war guild. It's like, that means anybody can go to war with you, automatic. It's just they just look up and down the guild chart inside their guild chat area, whatever you call that, when you pull up your guild button on your paper doll, and you should be able to go to war with anybody at that point. And if you are a guild that does merchants type stuff, it should be an option. It should be an option. Someone sends you a war threat, then you should have the option to go to war. And it's because you're basically fighting over that area. Let's say you're in San Luna there, and you're trying to get people to go to your vendor house versus the vendor house across the road there. And so you could have your own little vendor type wars where you're actually fighting each other, trying to get people to go to your... That would be fun. I like that idea. And anyways, that's kind of my idea on it from what you actually brought up. And I think those are great things that can be brought forth. But now my big question to you, after this, is to Spider-Bite and Viceroy, because you guys are the aces when it comes to knowing how this stuff works. How do we get into EA to get these ideas passed? I mean, I'm only 25 miles from their headquarters here. I mean, I can only camp out so long in front of their front door, but what do we do to get them to listen to these ideas and actually have a way of connecting with them to talk about it? I mean, lobby is what I'm talking about. Do we lobby it, or they don't do enough town hall meetings to bring this stuff up? And believe me, at these town hall meetings, it's really, really tough to get stuff happening, because you have many, many people, and they want to get everybody to ask a question. So if you have two questions, it's like, hey, you're too bad. You already asked your question. Now we're going to go over here. So give me some ideas on that.
That's a good point. Absolutely. And I don't know about if I'm an ace on this stuff or not. I've been in the game a long time, and probably as long as you have. And I just look at it and take these observations. But I agree, Vice has come up with a great idea, and I would like to see something like that implemented. Go ahead, Vice. You were next.
Well, technically, I mean, if you look at the meaning of a guild, it's basically a merchant guild, and that's what they are, basically merchants. It's a group of merchants that form a guild. It's not a group of warriors that form a guild. A group of warriors is a clan, whereas a group of merchants is a guild. And the role of the guild was to basically, was kind of like a union back in the medieval times and everything like that. Think of it that way. And, the union supplied, all these warring factions, or different clans with what they needed. And so, they were kind of like, the guys who basically met the supply and demand of the time. So with that said and everything, you know, you just have to keep in mind there ought to be an interdependency between warriors and merchants, and I think that's something that needs to be looked at for the future. And as far as getting into the game, I really don't know how to go about that. You can only voice them here, I would imagine, or go see them in person whenever they have the next town hall meeting or something like that, and voice your ideas to them, and maybe they will buy into it. Who knows? But, you know, it shouldn't be about you should have to go Feluca in order to achieve interdependency between guilds and merchants, or should I say clans and guilds, because, you know, that shouldn't be required. You know, you shouldn't have to go to Feluca if you want to, you know, have some kind of business relations between two different types of playstyle. You have warriors who go out in PvEM, you have warriors who go out in PvP, and they all have needs. So why not make there some kind of interdependency, but at the same time reward those who would, you know, are susceptible to attacks. You know, and, you know, that could go into a whole political system, which we've discussed in past talk shows, where you give people the option to basically form political systems. And you give more power to the players through, you know, through stuff like that. You can either hinder or hurt the guilds, or the guilds could actually, you know, boycott or refuse to produce any items that they need. You know, the possibilities are totally endless, depending on how creative you want to get with something like that, and, you know, exactly how willing the developers are actually willing to do something like that. So, you know, you have to be really creative with some of the ideals. You have to sit back and look at everything with an open mind and say, well, yeah, you know, you do have a point there, and say, you know, pretty much, you know, look at it as to how feasible it might be. And go ahead, Sam, man. Let me give you your mic. There.
And you about here, and then you ask about all.
Go ahead, Sam, man.
Yeah, you got my laughter going here in the background, but we're bouncing around here in my office here, my studio, and let's see, we've got. We were just talking about. I think there should be like a type of reward for fighting. So if you are fighting in versus another guild or clan, if you call it. You actually, whether it's points or, you know, they do silver for factions, they should have some kind of thing that you actually gain, whether it's hey, it might be a cool flag that you get to wear on your back or something like that. There's something that you wear, then if you don't keep that status up, you lose the status and the flag disappears. So you go down to the next flag or whatever, or shirt, or, you know, something that actually shows that you're actually out there involved. And hey, it shows who the mean guys are, too.
Well, if I may, I'd like to quickly chime in. You know, the thing is, with the whole system and everything, is that you can actually form a political system where there's, you know, conflict, you know, for battle of control or power. And you can also simply go around and, you know, have economic politics and stuff like that, you know, economical stuff like that. You know, the possibilities are endless. You can have economical, you know, stuff that, you know, politics are economical related, and then you can have politics that are like, you know, control over towns and stuff like that. You know, like a guild could, you know, actually have some kind of benefit of controlling a town or something like that. And, you know, it's kind of like, well, you know, do we rise up and supply this other guild because we want so-and-so, you know, in power that's more favorable to our needs and wants, or do we, you know, basically keep, you know, work under oppression and stuff like that? I mean, it's really ideal of what medieval times is, because really that's the setting in which we're in Ultima Online. We're in medieval settings, yet there's nothing in Ultima Online that's really medieval, to my knowledge, that gives me the impression that I'm actually in medieval times. I mean, there's no conflict, there's no danger or anything like that. There's no control or people vying for control over different aspects of the game. So I mean, it's just like a combination of things just meshed together, and none of it makes sense. I mean, I don't know if you guys feel that way, but that's how I kind of feel.
Oh, you know 100% that I feel the same way. There is no purpose in the game, so to speak, other than kill monster, get artifact, put on vendor, and sell. That's what drives most people who are in guilds right now. Champ spawns, for example, are that way. One thing that I wanted to well, first of all, to answer your question, Sam, the obvious, and I'm going to state the obvious here, these talk shows that we do each week, the developers do listen to them and have taken ideas away from this talk show, just like any other format, whether it be a forum or something like that. They listen, and they do hear our ideas. They can't say, "Oh, I'm going to run off to corporate right now with this and make it happen next week." But you know what? We're another voice out there, and so that's why I encourage everybody. If not this week, next week, get into our talk show. You're all welcome now. Everybody's welcome. Just to touch on that. But the only concern I can see with the playstyle being affected by the system that you bring up, Viceroy, are the player killers, the murderers. They are part of medieval times. They are part of the community. They do exist, and right now, like you said, or as you mentioned, as far as having to go to a whole nother landmass or another facet in order to be there, it's like when the British shipped all the criminals off to Australia. Here, now you can go be bad guys all you want. Well, wait a minute. They don't want to kill each other. They want to kill other people. They want to kill innocent people. In such a system, if everybody is part of a guild that they're not allowed to attack, like the innocent crafter out gathering resources, what's going to happen to the PK? So with that, looks like you have a thought on that, Alex. And go ahead, Vice. This is your comment. I'd like you to run this one.
All right. Well, yeah. I just want to quickly point in. Why is conflict good for the game? Why is it, whether it be social conflict or political conflict or economical conflict, why is it good for the game? Well, I'll tell you why it's good for the game, because it gives the game more meaning and more purpose than what it does now. It also creates more of a economical need and demand for supply, and it actually increases that, believe it or not, because if there's wars and stuff happening, well then, you're going to lose the equipment and stuff like that, and you're going to need to replenish it and stuff, which actually spurs economic growth in a game and stuff. It's just kind of like a profiteer, a war profiteer. What is a war profiteer? They benefit off of war, and that's what would basically give war rise to war profiteering. Because then guilds could actually benefit, and it would actually stimulate economic development and growth in a game. And that's what is missing. There is just no demand, no need. There's no need, there's just no need to replenish anything in this game. Once you have it, you pretty much have it until God knows when. And it's pretty sad, to think that you can acquire weapons and weapons and weapons, money and money, and whatever else you want, that you can acquire out there. It just stacks up somewhere, in a house. I mean, you ought to be over there reaching into some of that and pulling it out and say, hey, I actually need to replenish something. I mean, you have to look at it from the aspect. War, conflict, and everything else is good for anything, in terms of economic growth and development, and in order to stimulate it. And if you're going to simply, say, well, this region, you need to go to this region in order to make it happen, well, it ain't going to happen, That's the whole problem. You can't get these people to get over there and give up anything. So what do? Do you pacify them and throw everything out for the longevity of the game just in order to keep everybody happy? Or do you do things that, while it may be kind of a hard thing to do, but at the same time good for the longevity of the game? I mean, which one do you do? Do you pacify the players, keep them happy, or do you do something that's good for the long-term development and growth of the game? I'll leave that decision in the hand of the developers. Go ahead, Sam. Let me give you your mic. There you go.
Yeah, if we could get a hold of the developers and actually have them listen to us and try and put something together, that would really be great. But, I'm just sitting here thinking about what everybody's saying. And by the way, Viceroy, your background music is great. I got to implement that into my show somehow. But anyways, I'm thinking in the way of if you have actually warring-type guilds out there, and if they're doing really well, and they get like some kind of point system, or it's something that's physically they can hold, like the silver for factions, for instance. If they actually gave them like giant diamonds or something like that for doing a lot of PvP and doing well, and then they can go into towns and turn that in, and then have like ownership of the Warriors Guild. And not just have it ownership of that Warriors Guild, but actually have it where there's a dungeon or downstairs area that only their guild can go down into. They'd be able to own that because they're paying for it, and because they're the number one guy, or the number one guild, actually, that can own that. And we have, my goodness, how many towns that you could do that in? So it's not just as though one, there's a lot of guilds that could own different buildings in these towns, and it would be a reward, and they'd be spending resources to do that. And hey, if you're at war with another guild, insurance doesn't work. I'm sorry. These production shards, your insurance will not work if you're PK'd by a warring enemy, and that's got to be implemented. It just has to work that way. It is. I'm telling you, a lot of people don't play Siege. I play Siege. I've lost so much stuff in Siege, just like Spider Bite. But hey, that's part of the game. That's what makes it fun. It's what makes it exciting. I mean, if you're not sweating when you're playing and PvPing, you need to get into Siege. I'm sorry, but I have such a good time there, and I think everybody else would. But if they actually implemented something like this for the production shards, where if you're at war with another clan, as Viceroy puts it, you can actually, when you knock that guy out, you can loot him. There should be loot. Anyways, go ahead.
Well, see, that's a very good point that you bring up there and everything, because if you think about it, what the problem is with the insurance and everything is just switching hands from one person to another. Whereas if there's no insurance and everything, a lot of people just simply took off the stuff, their armor and weapons, just threw it on the ground somewhere and left off and went somewhere else, because they didn't want them getting their armor back. They didn't want their armor. They just didn't want them coming back to their body and getting their weapons back and jumping right back into the fight. So, a lot of people lost their equipment that way. Whereas, with the insurance and everything, all you do is simply switch gold from one hand to another. I'm not even sure, because I haven't even PvP'd since AOS, because I don't like post-AOS. I've made that known, very well known, because of the item properties and everything. But, all I see in PvP is gold moving from this person to that person, and then that gold moves from that person to that person. It never actually leaves circulation. The items will never leave in circulation because they're getting their stuff back. All that's moving around is gold from one hand to another, and that's all that's taking place with the insurance, to my knowledge. I don't know if there's any gold. Let's say, I don't know if it takes like 6,000 gold to, equip your stuff, and then you get like 3,600 gold if you kill them. And it takes out basically 2,400 gold every time somebody dies. That would be a gold sink, if that's what it was. If it took 6,000 gold to basically insure all your stuff, but the player that killed you only got 3,600 of it. So, that would be a gold sink right there, but is that the case? To my knowledge, I don't think it is the case. I think all we're just saying is gold goes from one hand to another, and I'll let Spiderbite talk about that a little bit. He probably knows a little bit more than I do about it.
Thanks. As far as the insurance goes, I believe, I'm trying to remember. I think it's 600 gold per item, and then they get half of it for each item. So, of course, everybody's insuring anything and everything on them, which, everybody knows my opinion. I don't even think insurance should have ever existed. Yes, you're right. We're just swapping items when that happens. For the honorable PvPers out there, who get a kill. In my case, it's far and few between. After a year on Siege, or a little bit more than a year on Siege, I've got 25 murder counts, long terms, and that's compared to people who have 300 or more. I'm a horrible PK or PvP or whatever you want to call it, but when I've done that, the only things that I take are to keep them from being, once they're resurrected, from coming back and getting, coming right back and getting me. I need to take them out of the action, whether that's a particular reg, like take away their healing reg in their pots to make sure they can't come back. It's just called honorable PvP. If I see other stuff on there, you know what, I may glance over it, but to be honest, on a shard where you can be attacked anywhere and can't run into a guard zone to go over your loot as you pull it out, there isn't enough time to stand over a body and go through it all. So by removing insurance on Felucca, at least, let's just say Felucca, it'll never, ever, ever happen on Trammel. At least on Felucca, it will... you know what, I just don't see it being such a bad thing after all. I know people put these millions and millions into their suits, but to be honest, Sandman brings up a good point. Because we're on Siege, because we buy armor, and literally my favorite crafter makes me 40 suits of armor at a shot, horned armor. I go out, me and Catherine go out and we farm horned leather for days at a time to get enough built up. We give it to her, and the next day she's got 40 suits of armor for us to do, and we're good for a week. But we're keeping the crafters happy, and that's what's hurting right now in UO. Like you touch upon is the merchants. With your system that you're talking about, that would be great. I mean, it would help with all of them. But with insurance in place, nobody needs to be stocked right now. They get all their stuff back because it's all insured. It's just gold exchanging hands. That was my point. One quick note. This is off subject. I wanted to remind everybody who's listening, during the show, we're going to be releasing a special hint about the Inu quest that comes directly from Draconi. So stay tuned. Don't tune out yet. We will be releasing that to you within the next hour. So go ahead, Vice. I'll go ahead and turn it back over to you.
Yeah, and really, if you think about it, if you look at insurance, how much it costs or how much you get whenever you slay somebody or whatever, just go slay 3 swoops. And that covers the cost of your insurance right there. So, I mean, it's not really hard to go out and make this insurance money, whatever, because it's real easy, in fact. You just go kill swoops and you get 2,000 for every swoop that you kill. So, I mean, gold is not hard to come by. And for people to tell me that the gold is hard to come by or they're flat broke or whatever, I don't know what you're doing, but you're doing something wrong. I can tell you right now, because there's so many ways to get gold in this game, and if you ain't got gold, you're doing something totally wrong. That's all I can say. Go ahead, Sandman. Let me give you your mic, and there you go.
Yeah, Spiderbite was talking about he's got 25. Well, I think I got 10, but unfortunately my 10 are against my other account. I never PK because I'm a thief, and it's like the only reason I did PK my own characters on another account was because we were doing a red thing, and so I got into that area. Of course, now I've worn that all off. I'm blue again, but that's really something that's fun to do. But getting back to oh my goodness, I'm getting PM'd all over the place here. Anyways, I forgot what I was going to say. Okay, let me think here. I'll come back to you.
All right, thank you people for PMing him. But yeah, they love to mess you up like that. Let's see. I'm going to turn it back over to Spider Bite, and I guess we'll go over to our next topic and everything. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's an awesome idea, and in the simplistic way that you posted it in our forums over on UORadio.com, I misread into it, so I'm really glad that you pushed me to get into that right away. I really am, because it is fascinating, and I'm sure you and I are not the only ones out there who've thought about beefing up the existing system so that there's more conflict in the game. You know, it doesn't have to be everybody is kill on sight. There has to be purpose to it, and there is no purpose right now. All we have is a broken faction system. That's all we have. So, yeah, it's a broken, that's all we have to cause conflict. That's the only purpose in game. Other than that, it's who can get the power scrolls at the champ spawns. That is where UO is right now as far as any sort of purpose or conflict. Go ahead, Vice.
Well, you know, my question to you is this: what purpose is there in factions anyhow? I mean, wow, you get faction fenders, and that's, you know, pretty much it. And then you get to buy these little special horses if you got the silver for it or whatever else. But, you know, really, what purpose is there to factions? I mean, let's just say they even do get to around to fixing factions and everything. What purpose does factions actually serve? Really nothing, if you ask me. I mean, because you can only do it so long, and then, hey, you know, you're like, why am I doing this? You know, why am I still doing this? What purpose does it really have at the end of the day? Are you making any significant impact in the world of Ultima Online? No. So what's the purpose? Wow, you get to go ride around on a new type of horse that's not even an ethereal, that's, you know, that can be killed. What's the purpose? Again, I ask you, what is the purpose?
Yeah, I agree. Factions needs a lot of work. We've talked about it on other shows as well, tying in factions with perhaps, you know, town stones and all the other ideas we've had over the months on this talk show. But when it comes down to it, you have to have factions fixed or replaced. I like the idea of the Chaos Order system coming back, to be honest. Good versus evil. Because that way, at least we're not leaving out our PK friends. And they can go out and murder, still, innocent victims. Not that I've done anything like that. I was kind of hoping, Who-Man here, he's in our chat. He was on our guild chat last week, would chime in, because I know that, he and his guild get into that stuff. I'm pretty sure he's AFK at the moment, though. So, Sandman, you remembered what you were going to talk about, or you had another comment before we move on to the next subject? Let me go ahead and hand you the mic. Go ahead, Sandman.
Yeah, okay, I'm on now. Okay. Yeah, you know, again, I was talking about how they need to make rewards for what you're doing. And, you know, this UO game system that they put together can be expanded in so many different ways, but you have to realize, if you've never been to the EA headquarters in Redwood City, when you walk in there, you think, okay, they got these games, yeah, blah, blah, blah. You walk in there, and they've got walls of these games that with all these, you know, CD cases showing what they've done. And there's hundreds of games that they put together. You got to understand that Ultima Online is only a small little portion of this company. And we're working with a small portion of the company to get this system, well, I'm not going to say the way we like it, but to get it into a working manner. Because we know right now it's not in a really good working manner. There's a lot of things that they've done that because people have pushed them into corners. And I really think that's why we need to have a good lobby system to say, hey, don't do that, do it this way. And I don't know how we can get that set up. I mean, I don't want to doorstep on those guys. That would be really hard. But, you know, if it comes down to that, you know, I can semi-doorstep, or somebody else can semi-doorstep, and they need to get back into their monthly events. The last event they had in Redwood City was not full, and that was the first one I went to. The pizza went real quick; it was gone. But I would say there was only half the people, half the chairs were filled up. But they did have a full event. It was definitely lots of questions, lots of answers, lots of stuff happening. And why aren't they doing that on a regular basis? They've got, right in their headquarters here, they've got enough going on in the San Francisco Bay Area here in California that would draw people to that if they would do it every month. But they're not doing it, and so, again, I think it's because it's a small part of EA itself. Now, does that mean we have to go above the programmer's head and say, hey, you up there, that you're his boss, you need to be doing this? I don't know.
Well, that's something we brought up the other day. And that's why we're doing what we're doing today, giving everybody an opportunity to come in, join the chat, and voice your opinions in a town hall style, so that the developers can listen and hear it. And they do. They're tuned in. They're in our chat room. So I guess to answer your question, we are one circuit directly to the developers, much like the Developers Corner on Stratix is, or the submission forms on the UO.com website. I was going to touch on a comment you made, and I can't remember what it was, so I'm going to go ahead and hand Human the mic, because he perked up and had something to say. Let me go ahead and tell us what shard you're from, and go ahead and give us your comments, Human. Let me hand you the mic here real quick. Go ahead.
Hello, Spider. Hello, Vice, and everybody else in here. I'm from the Sonoma Shard, GM of the Evil Empire Guild. And basically, I just wanted to let Viceroy know I am here, I am listening. But we're into more of faction talk right now, which, in all honesty, I have no clue about factions. And we were just now as a guild starting to talk about maybe having something to do with them so we could get more in tune with what was going on. But basically, that was it.
That's good to know. Especially as a fellow Sonoma player. You got my little hamsters spinning on the wheel now in my head. Of course, I can't drag the Darkmoor Alliance into it with me. So, anyways, Viceroy, go ahead.
Well, the thing is, a lot of people say, rewards whenever it comes to, factions. Let's give everybody rewards for doing something. Well, how about let's move away from that concept of rewards, because I'm getting sick of the death of rewards. I want something like control. Give me some control over something. Give me something different. I don't want an item. I don't want an item every time I do something in the game. If I conquer or beat something in the game, I don't want an item. I want some kind of special aspect of the game, Something that's unique that nobody else will have, or something that only a few select people will have. I don't want something that, 5 or 6 years from now, if the game should be going that long, where, everybody has this reward. What's so special about a reward if everybody's going to end up having it before it's all done and over with? Because, that's really where the game's headed, with all these rewards. Everybody's going to have one, everyone and their brother. So, do you want to see a system where you keep getting rewards for, all these things and everybody has it, and then the unique characteristics of this reward just goes down the drain or out the door because it's no longer a reward if everybody has it? So, I don't know about you guys, but I'm sick of rewards.
Yes, I am too. This give me attitude absolutely has to go away. You see it more frequently voiced on the forums when there's an EM event and they hand out something at the end. I personally, sorry, I apologize if you can hear my dog in the background there. I personally have refused my British Guard sash at every EM event. I don't get one. I'm not giving one, or I don't accept it. I hand it to somebody else and I give it to them, or the last one I gave away to a museum. I don't want them. I was there for the fun. Now, factions, that's what the point I forgot about earlier. For example, on Siege, factions are come and go. Half the year, they are going strong, even broken the way they are right now, because it is so much fun for people to sit and do what they do and finally get control of a city. Now, if we could work this into the system and into the system you presented, and make it so that that guild doesn't just control the vendors or the guards. That's crazy talk. Let's make them control of the city, period. Every NPC vendor, unless you're part of that faction, you cannot use those services in that city. Make people fight to get the rights back to use it. Rebellions for the people who are not gilded. That's one great example. There are a lot of small guilds on Siege. I'm one of them. A very tiny guild. 4 people. 4 people. 4 characters, 4 people. But there's a lot of us in an alliance. If we could rebel against the town, fight them for the ability, a purpose. That's what we're getting at with this. A purpose in the game. Right now, it's, you know what? I hate what you said about me on the forum yesterday, so I think I'll throw you your guild a war invite. That's the extent of purpose in this game with chaos and conflict. Human, you were next. Let me go ahead and hand you the mic here real quick. Go ahead.
You were saying, Spider, about the rewards that, a lot of people say, hey, well, I'll go, but only if I have a chance to get this or that or whatnot. You bring up a good point, and I like that a whole bunch, but maybe, something along the lines of if you're controlling the town for so long, maybe like the EM event, the British invasion, where you took over or you fought all the spawn, and at the end they resurrected a monument. So, maybe, if you can give somebody the rights to hold the town and, place a monument, just something for pride, something that stays in the town, you can put your guild's name or whatnot on there, and something along those lines would be pretty cool, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's, yeah, that's a great idea too. Again, that goes back to what we had talked about in earlier talk shows in the past about a town stone and that sort of thing. Being able to do that with player-run towns, where you actually have something to show, but it's a community. It benefits the community, not the person. Person isn't going to run off to the bank. How many EM events can you count where you have not gone to eBay and seen Royal British Guard sash, $10, 50 available. It's pathetic. So yes, I agree 100% with that. The gimme attitude has got to go, because there's people I see show up at events or during faction or whatever. Factions, there is no reward right now. Like Vice has mentioned several times. Right now, all you get is a pretty horse. You can control the reg vendors, and I guess control the guards in some way or another. I haven't gotten into factions, but I'm toying with the idea right now, as a matter of fact, because on Siege we actually had somebody, Wolf2K, over on Stratix, who single-handedly took over Britain on his own and controlled it for a very good time, a very good long while. And I kind of like the idea of doing something like that. So I may toy with it, even though it's broken. Anyways, Sam, man, let me hand you the mic for here real quick. Go ahead. Let's hear your comments.
Yeah, talking about Wolf, I was his only enemy there for a while, and being a thief, he was hosing me left and right, and I actually had a good time doing it. I'd show up and he'd get me, and then I'd have to wait 15 or 20 minutes for my stuff to come back up, and then I'd go back in again, and he'd be waiting there for me again. But we went back and forth, and actually that was a lot of fun. And if you've never played in factions before, And if you can actually get in a shard where they're doing factions and where you have to guard your fortress from an enemy faction to keep them from getting those stones, those seagulls, that is so much fun. And I'll tell you, I've had more fun doing that than anything in the game, I would say. And for a faction thief, all I did was make sure that I got the seagulls back. But it is such a great time. And Spider-Bite, I really suggest you do get in factions. That will be fun. If you have never done that before, it just really raises the hair on your neck when you have the seagull in your hands and you're running for your headquarters to place that seagull on that tower. But also, we were let me see, what was his name again? I'm sorry, Holman, I think it is, the GM there from Sonoma. That idea sparked something in me about having some kind of city stone. What you said is a really good idea. It'd be nice if you could actually click on that stone that shows you a timeline of who, which guild or which clan is actually running that town and for how long. It shows a timeline. So like if your clan or guild is running this town, like if it was Britain, for instance, and you click on that stone, it shows that whatever the name of your group is, ran this place for this amount of time, and it actually shows a timeline. And I think that would generate a lot of interest, and people would want to control that town. Even if it showed a faction timeline, showing which faction actually was involved with taking care of that. And another thing, was it? I can't remember if it was Spider-Bite or if it was Spider-Bite that actually talked about having the vendors in control of that faction for that town or city, and only people in that faction could buy from those faction, from that city, from those vendors. That would really generate a lot of super interest. Because what happens, when I've been in factions, and I was actually the faction leader or the commander, you'd get people come up, can you lower it in this town? Well, yeah, hey, lower it, but they can't buy there. They're not in the faction, so too bad. You got to be in the faction to buy from that town to reap the rewards of that cheaper price for those products that you want to get out of that town. And if they implemented something like that, I think factions would become alive quickly. It's an easy fix, I think. Otherwise, you go in there and you can't buy. You got to go over to Trammel, or in Siege, you have to go to a non-faction town to buy at that point. And I think we could really generate some super interest on that. And Spider-Bite, getting factions now.
Yeah, we're going to work on that. Hey, listen, I want to let everybody out there in the audience know right now that the clue that Draconia is slipping us about the emu quest is coming up momentarily. What I'm going to do is get the last couple of comments here on our current subject. Then we'll move on. But before I move on, I'm going to announce the clue that Draconia has given us, and we're getting it exclusively here on UO Radio. So if none of your friends listen to it and they want in on the emu clue, tell them to tune in right now at UORadio.com. So with that said, Viceroy, let's go ahead and hear your thoughts, and then I'll go on to Who-Man, and then we'll move on, and I'll give the clue up.
Well, actually, I just wanted to do something a little bit goofy and play a little tune. I think it's very appropriate for what we're discussing here. And I think you'll agree with me here in a minute. So let me just get this going here. And I'll go ahead and let Who-Man go ahead and speak over here.
Yeah, I was just going to say, folks, that, have some pride in your guild. Have some pride in the group of people that you hang out with. It doesn't always have to be about getting something. Earlier today, we had that new quest with the demon on Sonoma, the enslaved demon, and we rallied our guild together, went down there and killed it. And, just have some pride in knowing that you can do it. I'm really happy with my guild today that we went down there and killed the thing. Took us forever, but, hey, we did it, and I was really proud of my guild for doing it.
That's the way to do it. Go ahead,
here's the tune, and I think you all agree with me on this one. And so, with that said, here's "Gimme, Gimme, Gimme" by Black Flag.
Gimme, gimme, gimme! I need some more! Gimme, gimme, gimme! Yo, what more? What, do?
Sorry, I just had to do it. Go ahead.
Oh, that's classic. I love it. I love it. Okay. Without further ado, let me go ahead and give you what everybody's waiting for. Speaking of gimme, 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 everyone wants me to gimme, gimme, gimme the clue. This comes directly from Jaconi. And he says, quote unquote, "I fear you haven't given it out yet." Now let me repeat it for you, because this is the clue. I fear you haven't given it out yet. This is E-News' latest clue, and you are hearing it exclusively here on UORadio. So, those who are tuned in, lucky you. You're even better off if you are joining us in our IRC chat, in our chat room here on UORadio.com, because you're going to, Draconi is going to emphasize on it a little bit. But I'll give it to you one more time, and then I will let him explain in IRC chat while we go on with the next subject. I fear you haven't figured it out yet. So, that is the clue, the special clue from Draconi. And go ahead, Vice.
Well, just reading, hearing that little phrase or whatever, I fear you haven't figured it out yet. It just kind of reminds me of the lyrics to Stones, and that's a pretty good song.
Yeah, everybody loves the Stones tune. I love it. Sandman, you had something to say about the clue. Let me go ahead and give you the mic real quick. Go ahead.
Yeah, you know what? Giving clues out like this, I think this is a great part of the game, Draconi. Keep it coming. I'm telling you, this is what develops great games, and I have to really honor you for this. This is glorious. Thank you.
Well, you know what? That I've been kind of hinting at. This is sort of the reason that we do this sort of stuff, and that the developers do listen, and they are actually really great people if you ever sit back and chat with them. Like, we get developers in the IRC chat daily who sit and kick back to talk. And it's never always about the game. It's always just casual chat. So, yes, if this is your first time listening to UORadio, especially the talk show, be sure to tune in next week, too. We're not done. We've got more topics to talk about today, but I wanted to get that out there because I knew people were getting a little impatient, and I had to throw them a bone. So, with that said, we've already talked about this. You know what? Okay, real quick, Pub 40 is coming out Monday, if everything goes okay over the weekend. We haven't heard yay or nay as to whether it's going to hit the shards or not. It'll go to Origin, and then it will hit the regular shards. So, of everybody on the panel today, and we have a guest that joined us. If you're unfamiliar with how to raise your hand, you go to the self menu and hit Channel Commander. And side note, Pub 40, a lot of changes, not as much as people were hoping for, but a lot of good fixes. I can read through the list, unless somebody has something off the top here who has been on the test center. that has tested these. I've been on the test center almost daily to test certain things, selfishly just to test my own characters' templates and see how they're going to be affected. So has anybody here been on the test center, tested the changes that are coming out? And if so, what are your thoughts? What do you like about it? What do you hate about it? Anybody here been on the test center yet? At all? Sandman, let me go ahead and hand you the mic. Go ahead.
You know, I have to apologize. I've never been on the test center for Publish 40, but I just want to let everybody know that that's an exciting place to go to really test out areas of the game that you don't understand. And hey, they pump you up right away. I mean, you just get to the character that you want to try out and check it out. But the test center is the place to be, and I don't see anybody kicking in. That's why I decided to jump in on that. But I am definitely going to go test out Publish 40 tonight, and unfortunately I won't be able to tell you what's going on, but that's the way to go.
Exactly, and that is exactly the point, is that many people don't. They go complain on the UO instead about the proposed changes. They don't go try them out, and they need to. Now, I will be the first to warn everybody, the test center environment, there are people who are, that is their shard. They play there 24/7, like a production shard. They're not fun people to be around. So you do have to go off and find yourself a quiet spot. I'll usually grab a few people I know from my own shard, whether it's Siege or Sonoma, and go off to like Despise or Shame or something silly like that to test stuff out where I know I'm not going to be bothered. And my experience personally has been, I tested my Fencer out because everybody's screaming about the changes to the swing speed increase changes. I don't know if I can find updated swing speed calculation to seconds. -1 tick for every 30 stamina. -1 tick per 30% of stamina. Also changed the way swing speed is updated or displayed. That concerned me. The whole purpose of creating a Dexer is to be able to hit fast. You don't have to hit hard, but you gotta hit fast. Interrupt the spells, get the damage in, and hit the special moves to make them, in my case it's poisoning, make them work. I recreated my character. I went and played. I did not test PVM because I rarely PVM. But I did test it out. I spent a good time on there before, and we got raided, and it was all, get the F off our shard, blah, 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 and I left. But what I got to do was to test it. So as far as that was what I went over there. Viceroy, you had something to say. Go ahead.
Yeah, the great thing about Test Center and everything, it does give everybody here an opportunity to basically test out things before it actually goes live on any production shard. For example, it's great for us here at UORadio because it gives us an opportunity to discuss, the pros and cons of different aspects of the game before it actually goes live on the production shard, so we can actually criticize or give constructive criticism before he even goes public, on the main shards and everything.
Oh, exactly. And that has always been the whole purpose of the shard, or the test center. And it appalls me that people will complain about it before even testing it out. And the excuses are numerous about doing that. And I hate. You know what? EA has given us, the developers have given us an option. They don't have to put a test center up. Other games don't have them. There are a couple, but most games don't have a center where you can go test out what the developers are working on and planning on introducing to the game. We're lucky to have them. I'm not being a fanboy here. I'm just happy to have it. Even if it comes down to, geez, I wonder if I can place a house in this spot I play on Siege, so I can't just sit out in the open and sit there and try placing for, an hour without worrying about being killed. So I'll go over to Test Center and play and try it out. Customization. I had a friend last year who did all my house customizing. And she did everything from top to bottom on the Test Center before she went over to Production Shard to put it into effect. There are so many uses for the Test Center, and it's underused right now. Some of the things that they're talking about doing. Let's see. Okay. Well, I'm looking through this list, Sandman. You go ahead. Let me hand you the mic here in a sec. Go ahead.
Yeah, you talk about all the things you can do. We've had groups that, like you were talking about. We would go in there, and we didn't even care hey, they're doing publish so and so what. We'd go in there just because we knew we can go there and build a castle and play with that castle until they changed it. But we go in there just for that reason alone and just have some fun. And we'd put two buildings next to each other and split up into teams and just PvP, like we were two different guilds, and of course we'd set up as guilds because we had the money, and have a good time there and test different stuff. I mean, if you really want to get good in this game, you want to go to the Test Center. That's what it's there for. You want to test out stuff. You don't want to spend months and months and months developing a skill and then find out, oh wow, that one sucks. Why'd I do that? Why'd I build begging up to 120? But definitely, if you haven't checked out the Test Center, get over there, check it out. Go in there and do a couple different things, especially with Publish 40 coming up. You need to check it out because they again, like Spider-Bite said, you are hearing people say, it sucks. How do you know it sucks? Get into Publish 40. Do Publish 40, then come out and say, I've done Publish 40, it sucks. Tell us why it sucks. Don't just say it sucks. We need to know why it sucks. You don't just publish stuff saying it does. Definitely, I've been playing this game for 8 years, and as far as I'm concerned, this game has never sucked. I have had such a good time playing with the community and developing characters and going into different shards, doing different things, waiting for the rewards. Is a good thing to me. I mean, I miss the Valentine's Day present. Hey, if you're listening, EA, Valentine's present, that was really fun. Those kinds of things. That was a good thing. You got these little things, and it's like, hey, I got this rose, I got this bottle of pink champagne. Those are the fun things in the game. But actually, the community is the ruler. You have to be involved with the community. If you're not doing things with other people, get involved. That's where it's all at.
Yep, good points. Absolutely. Basically, this is one of the reasons that I've been crying. I don't do it publicly, but in my head I'm crying because I so want my UO back. And I don't mean possessive my UO. I meant myuo.com forums. Just for developer stuff. Get it off of Stratix. Because we have people in there who don't play UO. We have people in there that don't go test the changes before throwing out their own theories and doomsday posts about how the whole game's going to end if they implement this next publish. And none of them go to the Test Center. Go to the Test Center, test it out, report your stuff. If you find something, like they just found something to do with a workaround on wands and a problem with explosion within 24 hours of this publish, if everybody who was complaining about this was on the Test Center and not bitching about it on the forums, we could have found that. People could have discovered that way prior and helped the devs out. That's what it's about. The Test Center is a beta center. That's what it is. Treat it like that. Use it. If you have a problem with the changes that are upcoming, shut up or go to the Test Center. That's my opinion. That's not the opinion of my colleagues or UORadio in general. Just my own. Viceroy, you're next. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, it's always good to have constructive criticism. Now, what's the difference between criticism and constructive criticism? Constructive criticism is when you say you don't like an aspect of the game, but and why. You give reasons as to why you don't like something. That's constructive criticism. Whereas just regular criticism, saying, "Oh, the game sucks," that's just being critical of somebody and not giving any reasons to why the game sucks. And also, what I also would like to encourage people to do is, whenever you give your reasons why, give also some reasons or some ideas as to what you think could be done to make it better. I mean, if you don't like an aspect of the game, give your ideas as to what can be done to make the game more enjoyable for you as a player. Because, you have to think about it from that aspect and everything. Because I think if more people were to do that, that you would probably actually see more things become, what's the word I'm looking for? You would actually see the developers probably pick up on more of the stuff if you were to, say what it is that you don't like, why you don't like it, and ideas on how to improve it. You probably see them pick up on stuff like that. So, and they're probably more responsive to stuff like that rather than saying, "Well, I don't like this and I haven't had a chance to test." And, speaking of which, I'm so looking forward to testing Publish 41 when Proficiency comes around, because I'm going to be looking at that with a fine-tooth comb to see what kind of problems I can find with that.
I think all of us are. I know I will. That's for sure. I've spent a lot of time on the test center with testing out different things with Pub 40. Of course, just how they apply to my character. As far as the productive criticism goes, or constructive criticism, that is an excellent point. And I will give one suggestion out so that those who have been trolled by me on the UO Hall forums, who didn't like it, maybe this is a good lesson to learn. Don't put "I quit" in your subject line. If these changes go through, I quit. That sort of thing. This is not a UO Hall rant, just a friendly suggestion. Stop putting that in. Or UO is going to die now. That's another one. Knock it off. Go to the test center. Give us screenshots. Give us something. And give your feedback to the developers. It's documented on the Developers Corner how you can do that. There's an email address and a submission form on their website. Use one or the other. Don't come and complain. If you come to complain first, you're just there to stir up a riot, and that's all you're doing. With that said, Sandman, go ahead.
Yeah, Spider-Bite, you're completely right when it comes to how complaints come through on the boards. Try it out. That's what the test center is all about. And besides that, you can actually have some fun on the test center. Again, you mentioned that they're waiting for you there. Yeah, it's just like a newbie in some way. But if you actually if you have a group, go in with a group. Go in and have some fun. It's actually a way of, hey, so what, I lost? So what, I got hosed or whatever. You're in there to have a good time. You're in there to learn the new system. And these developers are not trying to put themselves out of business. Believe me, they are in the business of developing a game that we like. And and it's up to us. It's really up to us to find something wrong with their system and tell them before they post it and before they actually put it out there. It's our jobs. I think it's our job, because if you love this game as much as I do, and I know Spider-Bite and Vice love this game, that if you play it enough, you should be out there testing it and saying, this does not work. Hey, and if this works, say, hey, this works. You need to respond to these developers and let them know what is working and what is not working. And you need to do it on a continuous basis. Just don't go in there for 15 minutes and say, hey, it don't work. And you're right. It's talking about quitting. Hey, you're drama queens again. Drama queens are, give me a break. This is a game, you're going to lose, you're going to win. And if you're a Sandman, you're going to lose a lot. And you just have to accept it. But you know what? I'm still here. I have a great time losing. I don't care. I'm doing things that I'm having fun with, and people know who I am in different shards, and I've done lots of stuff in different shards, faction stealing and the whole bit. Make yourself known by your personality, not by the game. Make it known by your personality. That's what's important about this game. It's a community. Make yourself known by your personality, not by the figure that you make.
Yeah, I agree. There is a lot that needs to be done. Bottom line with the test center is it's a tool. It's a tool to be used by us. And you're right. And that is something you said about it's there for us. They're using us. People complain. Why should we have to go test your software? Count the number of people, of developers on the team. Take the time they take to put into creating it, and then what are they going to do? Go play it for 40 hours? If I was EA, I wouldn't pay them to go play the game for 40 hours to test their own stuff. It's way past 1985 where beta software was out there, and everybody with the little cardboard sleeve and had their original UO beta CD knows. It's past those days. Back then you volunteered. Now we have a test center. We're volunteering again. But now you have hundreds of people to test for you. It's still volunteer position. Do it. Go test it. Don't complain about it after it's put out. Just go do it. So, Viceroy, go ahead.
Well, I'm kind of curious. Is there anything to do with this new quest, and what is it all about? For someone like me, I don't really get into all those quest systems and everything. And quest isn't exactly my ideal of, playing the game. But I'm kind of curious. I like to get somebody in here who knows something about the quest and everything, the new quest. What's it leading up to? What do we know about it so far? Anybody here know anything about it so far? And and if we don't have anybody in here that knows what they do so far, because what I like to do is maybe have somebody on here who can tell us what do we know about the whole Inu quest so far up to this point. What do we know so we can share it with other people, because, information is power, and the more people that can know about it, the more people that, can brainstorm and think about where's this whole thing going, because obviously it's supposed to tell something about the future of Ultima Online. I don't know exactly what that's going to be, but once you figure it out, you're supposed to be able to know where the game's heading. So I guess that's in a way a good thing. I don't know.
Yeah, and that was actually one of my topics, and it looks like it's going to be our final topic for the day. We're creeping on to the top of the hour here. The Inu quest, it just for everybody who might have missed out, Draconi did slip us a hint, and I'll give it to you guys one more time. That's it. Then you're on your own. It's, I fear you haven't figured it out yet.
And fear is emphasized.
That's right. So, but I myself personally, that was actually going to be my project this afternoon after today's talk show, was to go do all of the Inu stuff. To date, I haven't had a chance. I do want to give credit to Sarah Swift, who often hangs out in our IRC chat, who has done a lot with it and contributed a lot on Stratix regarding it, and shamefully it's in the U-Haul, so if you haven't exposed yourself to the U-Haul in the past, go drag yourself over there. The spoilers are there. But we would love to have somebody in here who does know and who has done them. I'm going to do them tonight actually, so hopefully by tomorrow I'll figure out a few things. In the meantime, Viceroy, go ahead.
Yeah, I would definitely, a lot of people are saying, go over this U-Haul post over there, and I'm like, no, I don't want to, really. I don't want to sift through, because I just went there last night, as a matter of fact, and there was like 50 freaking pages of that stuff, and I was like, you're kidding, right? I don't want to sift through 50 pages worth of posts, and, yeah, that's not my ideal of spending the afternoon, no.
There's actually a Inu webpage now where people have conglomerated everything together. I don't have the address for it. I saw it. I copied and pasted it, and then I pasted our talk show information over it. So I will dig it up again, and I'll put it in my personal forum on the UORadio website. Sandman, let me hand you the mic and let you have an opportunity to discuss Inu.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you're talking about U-Haul, and this is the one and only DJ Sandman. I don't even know what U-Haul is. I know what I know what Statics is, but I see people mentioning it all the time, and I have no idea. So maybe you might actually, Spider-Bite, you might want to talk about what U-Haul is for the people out here like me that don't know what U-Haul really is.
That, or I could do the public service and do the opposite. Yeah, I know. I would never. That's kind of like taking the wheel away from somebody from the passenger seat. I'm not fun to throw somebody into U-Haul. It's the general discussion on Stratix. It's under the general discussions area. It's all right, but you have to take every single post with a grain of salt, because you got to remember, many people there don't even play UO anymore. Many people are disgruntled. Many people, you've got every single shard gathered into a single forum with a single, and everybody's got a different play style and a different opinion and a whole lot of attitude and a whole lot of emotion. So, for as far as I'm concerned, like on Siege, we call Luna the cesspool of the shard. I'm not going to call it a cesspool, but I'm going to call it a whole lot of chaos. So, Viceroy, if you want chaos outside of the game, U-Haul is the way to go. Go ahead.
No, typically when I'm in the game, I just want chaos in the game, not outside the game. But, let me give out a website address that might be helpful to all the people out there who want information about the new quest. It's http://Sarah, SAHRA.Swift, SWIFT.Google-Pages. Yeah, I'm sure you know how to spell Google and Pages. It's all one word. The Google Pages is one word. .com/Inu Plot Main. Alright, and the Inu Plot Main, it's spelled INUPLOTMAIN. So that's where you can go if you want to find information about the Inu plot. And hopefully, one day we'll figure it out. I think the more people that get involved with it and everything, the faster we can crack this little nut.
Well, exactly. And we are in a multiplayer game, massively multiplayer game. So yes, it does require many people, just as some of these things do. Like Human said earlier, the latest dungeon that popped up, he had to take his whole guild in there to go do it. It requires, companionship and, cooperation to go do these things. So, it's going to, especially on the production shards, there's no lack of people who are looking to go do these things. So, definitely get involved with the quests. I have no excuse other than I've been busy with some other things. That's why I'm looking forward to jumping into it tonight, as well as, and Human, you will be very pleased to hear this, I'm going to play with factions as well. With that said, what I'd like to do is if anybody has any final comments, we'll go ahead and grab those real quick. Just make them brief, because we do want to turn it over to the next DJ, and then we will adjourn for the day, so to speak. And I want to thank you, because today was our prototype, so to speak, of the new talk show format, and I'm very pleased to see that it ran very well. And I think Vice will agree. We shall be doing this going forward, where you are all welcome to join us, and we will have information on the website on how you get into the TeamSpeak. So with that said, let me go ahead and grab the comments from the people here who would like to say something, and then we will say goodbye for this week. Today, number 36. Sammy, let me hand you the mic. You were next. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think this format you put together is probably the greatest things you've done. I think it's really going to generate some interest, and hey, if you're listening right now, let your friends know that are playing Ultima Online that this is really a great system that Spider-Bite and Viceroy have put together, and definitely check into it. I'm excited about this. I'm going to be listening every Sunday, I'll tell you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for joining us. First of all, I got to tell you straight out. When Viceroy told me about the idea for this format, I thought I was fired. I didn't realize I'd be hosting it still. I thought I was fired. I thought I was done. So, honestly, I really thought I was, and I was graceful, but I'm glad of this new format. I really like it because we get more people in here, we get more opinions, and hopefully we'll get a lot more. So I encourage everybody to jump in. But it was Viceroy's idea exclusively. For me, I just waved my pom-poms at him. Like people, just as enthusiastically as people chanting for a Ren whatever shard. Joe Pam, you were next. Let me hand you the mic here real quick. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. Thanks for listening, guys, and if you want to help UORadio out, we're looking for news reporters.
That's a good point. I will definitely go ahead and plug that as well. You can always fill out a application here at UORadio if you want to volunteer to be a DJ or a news reporter. And as Viceroy mentioned yesterday on our show, and we interviewed him, we're also looking to start up the backup DJ program, or the step-in DJ program, which means if you ever applied to be a UORadio DJ and we didn't have time slots available, which thankfully is something that we deal with rather than trying to fill them up, you have an option where we will contact you and say, hey, jump on board. We need somebody to fill in right now. Get on there, queue up a playlist, and get going. So thanks, Joe Bam. Yes, definitely. And we do need reporters. Who-Man, let me hear your final thoughts for the day. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think this is UORadio's talk shows are something great for the UO community, and they should definitely tune in and listen. There's a lot of good points made here, a lot of good debates going between each other, and I think it's some good info that everybody should get into. And look forward to me being back every Sunday.
That's always good to hear. When somebody says they're going to come back, that's all we care about. Come back and stay tuned in for the entire show. That's all we ask for. With that said, I guess what I'll do is I'll just repeat the Enu clue one more time. Just one more. For those who caught the tail end of our show or missed it and are tuning in now thinking the time zones were different. But Draconi says, I fear you haven't figured it out yet. So, that was an exclusive hint here on UORadio. With that, unless you have anything else to add, Viceroy, I guess we'll wrap it up for today.
Nope. I just want to point out that fear was emphasized. Fear. As in, nobody fears Spider-Bite on Siege. Yeah,
okay?
fear me.
That should be a good emphasis.
You're going to be a toasted spider after I get done with you.
Okay, I want to thank everybody here that joined us today, and remind everybody else, if you're interested in joining us on the talk show, all you need is a mic and TeamSpeak. The instructions are on UORadio.com. Get in, join us every Sunday. You are all welcome now. Not just a panel of people we pluck out of the audience. You're all welcome. So with that said, today was May 7th, 2006, and this was UORadio Talk Show number 36. My lucky number. So you all have a great afternoon and a great weekend.
Yep. Take care. See ya. Bye.